So in the past videos, I've been talking about developing a portfolio career and how it's important to craft this, especially moving into the world that we're moving to right now. We know that at least within the UK by 2026, 50% of individuals will have some sort of portfolio career. Now, what is it? It is essentially a career that you create as opposed to pursue. And so because of all of the things that have happened economically or geopolitically, such as COVID-19, the war on Ukraine, the stuff that's going on in Palestine and I think it's Israel. Sorry, I had a bit of a lapse there. In addition to many other stuff, these all contribute to the way we respond and react to work. It also comes down to how organizations are really responding to recruiting people. Okay. And what I've seen, at least within my consulting, independent consulting and contracting capacity, is that organizations are quick to hire and quick to fire. What does that specifically mean? They don't want to be in a position where they are bound potentially by individuals who they need to pay pension for, benefits for, training for, also making sure that they're paying national insurance for. We saw that went from 13.8%, I believe, to 15%, which inevitably has affected the hiring process, whether that's for a permanent member of staff, a fixed member, or a contractor. And so in this new world, full of change, full of individuals who are required for their expertise, it is important to make sure that you are ready not to just pursue a career, but create one where it has financial stability. That is a key point. Now, what does financial stability actually mean in this instance? Well, we're betting on the fact individuals who have this multifaceted view of the world believe that if we do multiple different things, we're in a position where we are, at least in the long term, increasing our earning potential, just like how you have a financial portfolio, a financial pie. Okay, you may be somebody who invests in the S&P 500, maybe you invest in some health ETF, and maybe you are, I don't know, investing in an emerging world ETF or something to that degree. The point being made is you're hedging your bets on various different things based on various different factors, but with the aim of increasing your income. Now, of course, there are many people who talk about portfolio careers being an opportunity for you to do things that you enjoy, and that's definitely true. It has to be aligned to you as a person, answering the question, who do you want to become? However, we need to talk about the money bit. And so really and truly, above really defining sort of like who you want to become, what your core expertise and skills are, your passions, etc., you need to think to yourself, is there a market here? That's essentially what you need to be looking at. So the things that you're focusing on, are there marketplaces for this stuff? Now, of course, when you are developing your career in however way you're creating it, you need to, again, determine, number one, where is there evidence that there are customers for this? Number two, where is there evidence that there are individuals who are actually doing this specific type of business or endeavor or career? Number three, am I able to do this in the long term? Like, do I have the passion, the desire, the curiosity, the skills, the experience? Because that defines essentially if there is earning potential. And so what you want to do is either do some research, okay, so do some analysis in terms of what is out there in the market. You can use Google Trends, you can use things like Udemy to check to see if there is demand for certain courses. You can check Amazon to see what that looks like. I know there are certain extensions you can use. I think Jungle Scout was one of them back in the day, where you can see how many sales are happening within a specific sort of like product. You can also look at customer reviews, okay, how many people are reviewing certain stuff. You can obviously do keyword research. You can talk to different people who have these businesses. These are all different ways in which you can validate, okay? But a point being made is real validation comes for your business when you test something, when you put out some sort of offer. Maybe that offer, again, Daniel Priestley talks about this quite a lot, especially in his book Oversubscribe. In his latest book, I think it's Score App, he talks about how do you capture leads. You can use surveys to see if people are interested in a certain idea, specifically you doing that thing. You can also use some sort of assessment to basically see if people are interested in learning more about that specific thing. You can use free courses or workshops, okay, or maybe one-to-one opening sessions where you have conversations with a potential client or prospect on a specific thing. You're testing the waters. I'm saying this because all of this aligns to making money. Now, of course, when it comes to all of this stuff, there are different things you can do, and I've highlighted this in my previous video. You can obviously do contract work or consulting. You can become a non-executive director. You can do mentorship. You can set up your own thing. You can create your own digital products. There are people who are killing it right now when it comes to Notion templates. They're definitely not dead. You can also create your own digital product, okay? Or maybe your own service. Maybe it's an agency. Maybe it's a consulting thing. Maybe it is something else. You can also do book writing. I don't think book writing is necessarily a money maker in this way, but there's an opportunity for you to at least market yourself. Some people set up newsletters. Newsletters are another way in which people can make money, especially if you have a certain type of knowledge that people are looking for and people may pay some money for in mass. But that's another thing. How are you thinking about this? Are you thinking of being an individual who is high ticket, whatever that means, okay, but just basically charges a premium based on, I don't know, your target audience being a specific person within an organization, or then maybe their high net worth is high, or are you going for sort of like the medium approach where you're charging anywhere between £200 to £1,000 for something? Or are you going for lower ticket, which is below £2,000, whether that is monthly or for a one-off thing? You need to think to yourself, what does this look like? For most people, they may just be in a 9-to-5 primary wise, or potentially next phase contracting or consulting, where they're thinking about all of this stuff, okay? Or applying some of this stuff. So these are different ways in which you can diversify your income. What I did forget to say is also things like social media. That stuff pays you now for going live and posting and all that kind of jazz there. I did a post on LinkedIn, I think this morning, where I spoke about, or maybe it was yesterday, where I spoke about the different things within my portfolio career and what they involve. So I've spoken about that stuff. I've really sort of like given you an idea in terms of how you're making the money. Now, what do you need to do? You need to manage your money. You need to be able to protect your money, and you need to grow your money. So we've spoken about grow. Well, now let's talk about manage. So when it comes to managing your money, let's say, for example, you have a wife or a husband or girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever it may be. You need to, especially if you're living with them, set time to go through your finances. They need to have an opportunity to go through their expenses and understand exactly what they've spent. You need to do the same thing. And then you need to have an idea of what you're spending a lot of your money on. So for example, I know for me, I'm spending a lot of my money on, number one, food. Okay, I love food. I can't help it. I like to eat. Number two, there's also transport. Okay, so transport's another thing that's big on my list. And previously, before, when I had, credit card loans, all of that kind of stuff there, that was also a big expense. So really the two main big ones are transport and food. But outside of that, it's kind of up to me how I want to spend my money. Now, when I'm thinking about my personal expenses, and I'm not talking about joint expenses, that is probably, I would say about 5% of everything that I earn. It's probably about 5%, which leaves me a huge chunk towards other stuff. Now, of course, you have to think about taxes and all this kind of stuff. And if you're self-employed, contractor, consultant, especially outside, then that's something that, I'll probably talk about in another video, but may touch upon here. So again, you and your partner are doing this review in terms of your expenses and stuff. Then you come together and you do a profit and loss statement. You come together and you have a balance sheet. You understand what is coming in. It can't just necessarily, or it may not just be your 9-to-5. Maybe there are other things that are coming in. And then you highlight your key expenses, the big sort of ticket items. And then you look at the stuff that you're trying to grow. And that gives you an idea in terms of how you need to target your stuff. It's a great way to do it. Me and my wife do it all the time. So if you want to learn more about that stuff, let me know. Happy to talk to it as well. The other thing you need to make sure is decide whether you're the sort of person who wants to do some sort of, budgeting, if you want to call it that. Do you have a certain amount that you spend each week? There was a time back in the day when I used to use Monzo where I used to have a certain amount I spent each week. When I was budgeting hard, like hard, I think I wouldn't spend more than £40 to £50 a week. That's like raw. How can you, fam? I had high expenses, I had high bills, I had all of this stuff that was just, it was just taken over. I had to do that, but it kept me on track. Maybe you're in that situation. Maybe that's what you need to do. Now, I don't even bat an eyelid. I don't think. But because of the hard work and persistence I put in, I've been fortunate enough to be in a position where I'm able to do that from time to time. I'm not going to act like I splash cash here and there. I'm not going to act like I'm some rich ball or whatever it may be. But I'm not budgeting £40 a week. I'm not even thinking about it like that. I don't really need to spend money like that. I understand my habits because I've looked back at my expenses and I understand how I spend money. So you have to understand what that looks like specifically for you, okay? The other thing I'd say is you have to think about your cadence. Are you doing on a rhythmic basis, such as a weekly or monthly basis, or is it something else? Now, there was this fantastic app before called Money Dashboard. I'm so sad that it's gone. And that used to be the thing that I used to track my expenses with. I used to connect all my bank sort of like accounts to it, and then it'll tell me this stuff. I use something now called Money something, but the fact that I don't even remember goes to show you how much respect I give it. I'm so annoyed it's gone. So I do have something now, but it's not as good. So really and truly, I'm kind of old school now. I still revert back to exporting my sort of like bank statements and then looking through that stuff. I know there are other things you can use, especially from a business standpoint. You can use QuickBooks and all that kind of stuff there. However, I've got my accountants who have something that they use, and I just feed into that. So that's not really a problem, but we'll get into that at a later video, maybe in this video, I'm not sure. So that's the sort of like budgeting, managing element. Okay, you need to be conscious of how you're spending your money and what different buckets that's in. The next element you need to think about is insurance, protection. Okay, what sort of protections do you need? Now, again, I'm not a financial advisor, so everything I'm saying in this video in terms of money, yeah, take it with a pinch of salt. Do your own research, speak to a financial advisor. Obviously, you're taking this advice at your own risk. But for me personally, insurance is important. Now, some people don't believe in insurance. That's up to them. They can believe what they want. For me, I believe in insurance just in case, okay? So one part of insurance that you may not realize that you're part of is state pension. If you're working a 9 to 5, or if you are inside of IR35 using an umbrella company, they put you in a pension. It's not state pension, but it's a form of pension, I believe. Anyway, I'll need to look into that. Actually, I need to confirm that. But anyway, pension is something that protects you. So have some sort of pension. And I would definitely, well, for myself at least anyway, a self-invested private pension is vital, okay? A sensible one that is either investing in things that are ethically inclined to you as a person, or maybe you're looking for something that's higher in risk because of your age or whatever it may be. But invest in a pension. That's the first thing. The second thing I'd say is some level of health insurance, okay? So just in case anything happens, you're protected. You're protected, okay? So really important stuff. And I think these are broken down into different things. I've got a whole video on this, so you can check that out for yourself. But I'm just trying to jog your memory in terms of things that you need to think about. There's also home insurance and building insurance. They're both slightly different. One is contents based, so the stuff within your home, okay? And there's also one that is based on the home, just in case an emergency happens or whatever it may be, you're protected in that way. You don't want anything to happen just in case. There's also income protection, okay? Now, of course, as a self-employed person, it's difficult to get the right level of income protection cover. So maybe you need to speak to a broker to get the right type. But essentially, you need one that covers you just in case anything happens to you and you are covered. Now, of course, in your 9 to 5, if you're working a 9 to 5, you have to understand what your insurance cover policy looks like just in case anything happens to you. Really important stuff to bear in mind. I'm just trying to jog your memory because you don't want to be in a position where you're out of work. I've been out of work as a contractor before, I think 4.5 months. I prepared for it because I had savings, which is a big one. That's a big form of insurance. And this is something that my wife has instilled in me. I don't know, men are a bit more lax, but she's instilled this in me. You have to have some sort of savings. There are times where I'm like, oh gosh, I wish I had money for this. And she'd be like, oh, it's in this pot and it's in that pot and X, Y, and Z. So if you're somebody who's a big fan of pots, of course, Monzo does this. I'm a big fan of Starling. Starling is probably the best banking app in my opinion, just because it's up with the times, okay? So think about how you are sort of proportionating different amounts into different pots. That's going to be a big one. There's probably some other stuff to consider as well that hasn't come to mind. But the point being made is insurance is a big one. You want to be protected as much as possible. Okay, in all of the different things you can think of. But I think the biggest one for those of you who are sort of like setting up a business is business insurance. Okay, I think it's Knightsbridge. Is it Knightsbridge or Knight something? There'll probably be a link below at some point where they protect you for different things like professional indemnity and What else is there? There's the two other different types of insurance. There's IR35 protection as well. There are all these different things that you just need to have just in case. And for being in a country like the UK, you can't take no risk because these mofos will try and squeeze every single penny from you. I'm telling you. So you don't want to take anything for granted, okay? Track everything. So that's the protection side. I've spoken about the maintaining and budgeting side, and I've also spoken about the growing side. So I've spoken about the majority of stuff. So those are the main structures that you really need to think about when it comes to really making sure that you protect your money in the right way. I think the other thing I want to talk about when it comes to grow, which is part of your portfolio career, is investing. Okay, so are you going to be somebody who's actively trading? So maybe you become some sort of scalper or day trader or whatever they call them, or are you going to be an individual who is going to be investing into some sort of fund, or maybe into some sort of ETF, or maybe into some sort of index fund, or maybe you have a pie? Have some sort of plan, because I'm telling you, I'm saying this to myself also, if you're consistent in this pursuit that doesn't really require your time or energy but just your money, I'm telling you, 5, 10, 20 years down the line, hey man, you'll be singing your praises. So don't be one of those people who are like, oh, it's too late now, there's no point, whatever it may be. Whether you're in your 40s, 30s, 20s, do it. Like, you won't regret it. And even if you're older than that, do it for the next generation. Am I saying that you guys are done? No, not necessarily. You could be quite aggressive with your savings, but of course, or your investments, of course, think about what you need to do. If you're saving anything, make sure you put it into some sort of cash ISA. There are some good ISAs around at the moment. If you're investing, obviously take advantage of the stocks and shares ISA as well. Of course, what this does is it protects your money from tax, and the other one, the cash ISA, means that you gain interest on your savings as well. So here are some things to think about, of course. Trading 212 is great for this stuff, so check out those different ISAs, especially if you're getting started. I might have a promo code below, so check it out. Anywho, so all of this stuff is coming to mind. I think the last two things I want to say is you have to be emotionally ready. If you are setting up some sort of portfolio career and it's aggressive, okay, is a bit more liberal by nature, and what I mean by that is it's entrepreneurial by nature. It requires you to find your own work, to create your own opportunities, to personal brand and all this kind of stuff there. You have to have the resilience mindset in order for you to keep on moving forward. You need to be driven. As Daniel H. Pink says in his book Drive, having a sense of purpose, autonomy and mastery contribute to being driven. I always say, based on some coach training that I had before, if you have some level of achievement, if you have some level of learning, if you have some level of enjoyment, and if you have a deep sense of meaning, you're more likely going to be driven. And there's two things from those four that gives you the motivation to move forward. So think about internal motivating factors. Do things that really excite you, but also make you money too, because we have to support ourselves, especially if you think about the whole Maslow's hierarchy and all that kind of stuff there. Make sure you review, because the review gives you the data that you have or need in order for you to set the plans, okay? When it comes to saving, it's simple. If you save X amount, provided you keep on making that money, you're going to get to X position in X time, okay? Make sure you have an emergency fund of at least 3 to 6 months. And if you could do longer, do 12 months if you can, and then stop from there if you want to stop. So think about all of this stuff. I am lucky that it's not lucky. I was sensible enough to have savings and have the support of my wife when things were in a difficult situation, especially when the elections came through. So you have to plan for these eventualities just in case. The UK is an expensive place to live in, so you have to think to yourself, if anything was to happen, have I got myself covered? So hopefully all of this stuff makes sense. You know, the take-home message I want to say, the final thing I want to say is that you have to also be, I won't say frugal, but sensible and efficient when it comes to spending. I'm very good at finding deals, especially when it comes to tech. I'll always find a way where I can do it for free with the same level of quality or for cheaper. So always find ways. Don't always just buy into premium because of the way it looks. We ain't got time for that. We're adults. We got things to achieve, what goals to achieve. So you need to be sensible with your decisions so you're not wasting time. Anyway, that felt like a telling off, but hopefully it's in the noggin, okay? So really to conclude, be very clear about who you want to become. Define what sort of skills and expertise that you have and see if there is market validation or product market fit or service market fit for what you do. Explore ways in which you can start making money. So dip your toe in different stuff to start growing your money. Think about how you can invest your money in the right ways and put them in the right sort of savings accounts. Typically, those are ISAs. Look at different insurances to protect your money in the eventuality that different things happen, whether this is to your house, the stuff inside your house, your business, your body, your death. So life insurance is another one that I forgot to say, but that's another one you need to think about. These are all things you can check out. Check out Money Saving Expert and look at all of the stuff that they suggest, and then you got some ideas that you can work off from. You also want to be able to budget and review your money on a regular basis, especially if you have a partner, and come to conclusion in terms of what your goals look like. You have to have the mindset that is resilient enough just in case anything happens. Really endorse that entrepreneurial mindset. Take risks, but also make sure you're protected, okay? You also want to be thinking about, again, like long-term planning and how you can position yourself for success as well. So I'm repeating myself a little bit, but the point being made is, like, don't be a fool. Don't be a fool. Take some time to plan. Yes, take action, but take some time to plan. So hopefully this has given you something. I know it's a bit of a ramble, but hopefully it's given you some ideas in terms of how you can approach making sure that you have financial stability in your growing portfolio career. If you've got any comments, please leave them below. I'd love to know your thoughts about these types of topics. And again, if you want to see more videos centered around portfolio careers, contracting, leadership, life management, resilience, the whole shebang, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.